Okay, let's unpack this. When you picture a media mogul today, there's this one image that just looms large, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. The voice, the sheer presence.
Logan Roy.
Yeah.
Exactly. And Brian Cox, the actor who just embodied that terrifying patriarch in Succession, he became this global icon, like almost overnight, it felt, late in his career.
It really did feel that way to a lot of people.
But here's the thing. If that HBO show is kind of the beginning and end of what you know about Brian Cox, well, you're missing out.
Oh, absolutely. You're missing, what, 50 years? 50 years of just sheer foundational mastery and a really complex history, too.
Yeah, stretching all the way from like working class streets in Dundee right up to the gilded stages of the Royal Shakespeare Company.
That's exactly right. And that's really our mission today, isn't it? To move far beyond Waystar Royco.
Right.
We're doing a deep dive here into sprawling, complex, incredibly prolific career of this amazing Scottish actor.
We really want to uncover that foundational stage work, and some surprising early film roles, almost contradictory ones sometimes.
Yeah, and the other stuff, too. His deep academic commitments, his political life as well. All the things that truly define Brian Cox as, well, more than just an actor. A polymath, maybe. A master craftsman. Definitely.
And just to sort of set the stage for the sheer depth we're talking about, let's do a quick, stats check. Because it's impressive.
It really is.
We're not just talking Hollywood blockbusters here. His career is defined by accolades that celebrate the absolute highest level of acting craft.
Okay, like what?
Yeah.
Lay it on us.
Okay, so 2 Laurence Olivier Awards. That's the absolute peak of British theater.
Cool, yeah.
Then there's a Primetime Emmy Award. And get this, for playing Hermann Goering.
Wow. Okay.
A Golden Globe Award. That one's for Logan Roy, which people might know.
Right.
And on top of all that, he was appointed a Commander of the Order of the British Empire, a CBE, back in 2003.
Okay, so that list right there.
Yeah.
Spanning stage, screen, national honors, it tells you immediately, doesn't it? He's not just some TV star who, lucked into a great role.
No way.
He's a genuine master of the craft. He's got that stage discipline, the textual rigor,
Yeah.
and the sheer professional longevity. He's a giant.
Absolutely. And to really understand that grit, that authority he just exudes on screen, we have to go right back to the beginning. We have to start where he did his hometown, Dundee.
Okay, so let's jump right back. Dundee, Scotland. The formative years. Because this really is where that relentless engine, that work ethic seems to have started.
Yeah. Brian Dennis Cox. Born in Dundee, 1946, youngest of 5 kids.
And from a working-class background, right?
Yeah.
Catholic family, Irish and Scottish descent.
Exactly. And the source material, it's pretty clear. His childhood was marked by some really sudden, profound hardship.
Yeah, it sounds like a deeply challenging start. His father, he'd been a police officer, then became a shopkeeper.
Yeah, that's right.
Tragically died of pancreatic cancer when Brian Cox was only 8 years old.
8? Imagine that. That's a foundational trauma right there, isn't it? Losing the patriarch, the whole family dynamic shifting overnight.
You really can't underestimate how that might shape an artist, especially one who later becomes obsessed with themes of, power, decline, family tragedy, like Logan Roy.
And the difficulties didn't stop there, did they? They sort of compounded quickly after that.
No, his mother. The sources say she suffered several nervous breakdowns during his childhood.
Which must have been incredibly difficult, and it meant that the practical job of raising him, it mostly fell to his 3 older sisters.
Right. So you've got this early independence forced upon him, resilience, having to navigate all that emotional instability.
You can definitely see how that might inform the kind of gravitas, the weight he brings to the screen later on.
It definitely seemed to have provided a necessary drive, wouldn't you say? He left formal schooling, St. Michael's Junior Secondary School, at 15. Which is startlingly young.
15. But he didn't just drift, did he? That ambition, it was immediately channeled straight into the craft.
Immediately. Started training right away, working as a stagehand and then acting at the Dundee Repertory Theatre, a really venerable institution.
So that was his first taste of professional theater life.
Yeah, and then followed pretty quickly by formal training at, the prestigious London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art, LMDA.
Right. LMDA, graduated in 1965.
But just put that in perspective. He was already acting professionally at the Dundee Rep from the age of 14.
1961.
14. He was basically living the life of a working actor before he'd even technically left secondary school.
In that kind of early baptism by fire, in repertory theater.
Where you're doing what? 5 different roles and 5 different plays in a week sometimes.
Exactly. It demands incredible technical skill, huge memory, just grit.
And that foundational work back in the 60s and 70s, it was absolutely critical for where he went next, wasn't it? Totally critical. And it wasn't just about, getting experience for himself. He was actually involved in building institutions.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, he was one of the founding members of the Royal Lyceum Theatre in Edinburgh.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, he performed in its very first show, The Servant aux Trois Meisters,
Yeah.
back in October 65. The same year he graduated from LMNDA.
So there's this dedication right from the start, establishing quality regional theater.
And that work quickly propelled him onto the national stage.
Which brings us to London, his West End debut, 1967, playing Orlando in As You Like It.
Yep. And there you see it, that classic British actor's trajectory, right?
Regional foundation.
Yeah.
London debut.
Check.
Then getting absorbed into the big classical companies.
Exactly. And that debut, it really set the stage for the next huge period for him. The Shakespearean apex, you could call it.
The 80s and 90s?
Yeah. Spending seasons working with the absolute titans of British theater, the Royal Shakespeare Company, the Royal National Theatre.
This is where he properly cemented his status then,
Yeah.
as a classical giant.
Absolutely. Gaining that deep textual rigor, that understanding of the classics, that allowed him to pivot later into, well, pretty much any genre he wanted.
And the awards started coming too, the big ones.
They did. 1984, first Laurence Olivier Award, Best Actor in a New Play, for playing Inspector Nelson in Rat in the Skull.
And that's interesting, isn't it? Because it highlights his versatility right away. It wasn't just for dusting off Shakespeare. It was for new, contemporary, hard-hitting drama.
Spot on. And even took that role off Broadway later that year.
But the real height of his stage power arguably came a few years later.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
4 years later.
Yeah.
Second Olivier Award. This time, Best Actor in a Revival. And the role.
Mm-hmm.
The terrifying title character in Titus Andronicus.
In 1988.
Titus Andronicus, wow.
And what's really fascinating here is that Cox himself, he's later cited his performance in Titus as the greatest he's ever given on stage.
That is a huge claim. I mean, considering the sheer volume of work he's done since.
Yeah.
But Titus, I mean, that's not exactly light fare, is it? Not remotely. It's probably Shakespeare's bloodiest, most relentlessly tragic play. Full of just horror.
So what does it tell us? That he picks that role, that performance, as his peak. What does that say about his artistic commitment?
Well, I think it tells us his artistic heart beats for that kind of intensity, emotional and physical intensity, for roles that demand the actor stares right into the abyss of human cruelty, of madness.
That commitment, that intensity, it seems to run deep.
It really does. And it's highlighted even more by the fact that he actually returned from spending years teaching and directing over at the Moscow Arts Theater School, which is incredibly prestigious itself.
Right.
He came back specifically to tour globally as the title role in King Lear. That was between 1990 and 1991.
King Lear. Okay, that's known as like the Everest for actors, isn't it?
Absolutely. Physically draining, emotionally devastating. Requires absolute mastery of the verse, the psychology, everything.
So how did he handle that pressure cooker of a role?
Well, the physical and psychological toll was apparently so profound that the whole experience actually inspired his first book, The Lear Diaries, published in 95.
He wrote a book about playing Lear.
Yeah. And it meticulously detailed, according to the source, the emotional and physical difficulties that came with playing such an all-consuming role.
Wow. So it wasn't just like anecdotes from the tour bus.
No. It sounds like it was more like an academic accounting of the process, the sheer work involved.
Can you elaborate a bit on what those difficulties actually looked like? Because that level of self-reflection, it feels quite rare for an actor who's maintaining such a busy schedule.
Sure. From what the sources suggest, the Lear Diaries gives this unique insight into the day-to-day grind, the pressure. He talked about battling physical fatigue, the struggle just to keep his voice healthy, night after night, month after month on tour. And the emotional toll, obviously, of having to conjure up that level of grief, that rage, 8 times a week.
Yeah, I can't even imagine.
He also wrote about the pressure, of stepping into a role that had been defined by giants before him, Olivier, Gielgud, Schofield. And the intellectual work needed to find something new, something relevant in this enigmatic figure of Lear.
So this documented commitment, it really proves that for Cox, acting isn't just about hitting your marks or saying the lines.
And not at all. It's an intellectual odyssey, a quest for truth within the text. And that becomes the foundational bedrock for every single character he's ever played on screen. Doesn't matter how small or how commercial the project might seem.
Okay, so those deep, often exhausting classical foundations you mentioned,
Yeah,
they're exactly what allowed him to make that pivot then successfully into film and TV.
right. And starting with some pretty heavy, kind of surprising early appearances that really show off his media gravitas.
Like his very first film role, which came relatively early, 1971. He played Leon Trotsky in Nicholas and Alexandra.
Trotsky. I mean, that's a figure of immense political historical weight, isn't it?
Totally. So how does a young actor, relatively fresh out of LAMDA, still finding his feet, how does he approach playing a revolutionary icon like that without decades of experience to draw on?
Well, it seems he approached it with that same textual rigor, that intellectual commitment we talked about. That's the stage actor's hallmark.
Okay.
He played Trotsky with this sort of quiet intensity, relying on presence, not histrionics. But even before that film role, he was already busy on British television. His first TV appearance was way back in 1965.
65. Same year he graduated at LAMDA.
Yep, an episode of the Wednesday Play, which, for people who remember, was a really crucial outlet for serious, often quite politically charged British drama back then.
Right. So he was a steady fixture in those kinds of serious British dramas through the 70s and 80s. I saw he played King Henry II in a BBC serial, The Devil's Crown.
Yeah, 1978. Yeah. And starred opposite Alan Rickman, actually, in a BBC adaptation of Therese Rock in 81.
Okay. But the really eye-opening, almost kind of surreal film role comes in 1986. And this one's pretty crucial for cinema history, actually.
Ah, yes. The role people often forget about. The original Hannibal Lecter.
That's the one. In 1986, he portrayed Hannibal Lecter, although it was spelled L-E-C-K-T-O-R back then.
Right, in Michael Mann's Manhunter.
In Michael Mann's Manhunter. And this marks the character's absolute debut on film, predating Anthony Hopkins in Silence of the Lambs by 5 whole years.
It's a critical point, isn't it? Because when you think Lecter now, you almost exclusively picture Hopkins, right?
Yeah.
That's slightly more bombastic theatrical performance.
Yes, totally. So what did Cox's stage discipline bring to that character, to Lecter, that was maybe different, unique?
Well, Cox's version is far more understated, much colder, more intellectual. He uses that stage discipline for this terrifying restraint.
Okay.
There's very little flashiness. The evil is conveyed through this menacing stillness and really carefully modulated language. It's a quiet, calculating villain. All psychological weight.
Which is kind of the perfect use of classical training in a cinematic context, right?
Exactly. It established this precedent that the character's power really lay in his mind, his composure, not necessarily in spectacle.
So after proving he could anchor these major historical figures and these quietly terrifying villains, the 1990s, that's when his career really breaks through, puts him on Hollywood's map properly. The source even calls it his superstardom period.
Yeah, the mid-90s were definitely a turning point. He got a BAFTA TV Award nomination in '93, Best Actor, for a really powerful role as Owen Benjamin, this closeted father dealing with a personal crisis in the lost language of cranes.
Right, 1991 that was. Showed his capacity for that deep, character-driven drama on TV.
But the film side just exploded in 1995. It's pretty remarkable. Actually, he was a key antagonist in 2 massive Scottish historical epics that came out the very same year.
Oh, yeah. He played the ruthless Killearn in Rob Roy.
Yep, got a BAFTA Scotland nomination for that.
And Argyle Wallace in Mel Gibson's Braveheart, the Oscar winner.
The sheer versatility in just that achievement, playing 2 dramatically distinct yet historically grounded Scottish figures in these huge, high-profile films back-to-back.
It must have signaled something to Hollywood, right?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Signaled that he was this reliable source of authenticity, a commanding presence, the go-to guy for gravitas.
And that decade just kept showcasing his range. Later on, he was in that neo-noir thriller, Kiss the Girls.
97, yeah, with Morgan Freeman.
And played an IRA member, Joe Hamill, in The Boxer with Daniel Day-Lewis, also 97. Just effortlessly moving between genres, complex political settings.
And then you can't skip the real sort of turn-of-the-century surprise. His role in Wes Anderson's Unique World.
Oh, Rushmore.
Rushmore, yeah.
Yeah.
1998, playing the headmaster, Dr. Nelson Guggenheim, opposite Bill Murray.
And Rushmore ended up being preserved by the Library of Congress, didn't it, for its cultural significance?
It did, which is key, I think. It just shows his ability to move completely seamlessly between, gritty historical epics, serious political thrillers, and then this highly stylized, culturally significant indie cinema.
He could be the tough guy, the villain, Or the gentle, slightly bewildered headmaster.
Absolutely. He wasn't just the actor you hired for, like Fury Gravitas anymore. He was the actor who could elevate any project with his intellectual depth, adapting that core stage discipline to the very specific demands of a director like Wes Anderson.
Okay, so the 2000s arrive, and this really solidifies his role, doesn't it? As this indispensable Hollywood character actor, the guy you bring in to deliver intense performances, whether he's anchoring a prestige historical drama or just adding that necessary gravity to a big blockbuster franchise.
Yeah, and the awards really started stacking up almost immediately in that decade. He won the Primetime Emmy Best Supporting Actor in a Limited Series for his really powerful portrayal of Hermann Goering in that TV film, Nuremberg. That was 2001.
Goering, again, playing one of the most infamous figures of the 20th century. You can see how he'd need that classical technique, right? The ability to hold the stage, command attention, to ground such an extreme historical villain.
Absolutely. And then in a tonal shift that just perfectly shows off his versatility,
Yeah.
he proved he could handle high-level sitcom comedy too.
Oh, yeah.
Got a second Emmy nomination in 2002 for guest starring as Harry Moondaphne's dad in 2 episodes of Frasier.
No way. From Hermann Goering to Frasier. That's a massive, almost like impossible artistic swing, isn't it?
It's incredible range, delivering the weight of history 1 minute and the lightness of witty, neurotic comedy the next, with equal precision.
He was also a fixture in some highly regarded HBO series around then, too, wasn't he?
Yeah, he portrayed Jack Langridge in The Western Deadwood, but the real complexity of his career paths around this time, that sort of financial and artistic duality, is maybe best shown by 2 radically different films he did around 2001, 2002.
Okay, right. Here's where it gets really interesting, I think, and where you have to sort of analyze the, I don't know, artistic compromise, or maybe it's artistic expansion. How does someone pivot from doing a raw, emotionally draining, low-budget indie film like LIE
That was a tough one.
to immediately becoming this fixture in massive Hollywood franchises like The Bourne Identity and X-Men? Was that just, pragmatic, paying the bills?
Well, that pivot is absolutely key to understanding his modern career strategy, I think. So 2001, he gets immense critical acclaim for starring as Big John Harrigan in the independent film LIE.
Right, the character who was a pedophile.
Yeah.
Extremely challenging role.
Hugely challenging, morally ambiguous, emotionally heavy. He won a Satellite Award for Best Actor for that, got an Independent Spirit Award nomination. This was high-stakes, artistically demanding work, required immense sensitivity, dramatic weight.
Yeah, it sounds like the kind of role that could really burn an actor out, demands total emotional investment.
It does. And yet, almost simultaneously, he's embedding himself deep into major, popular, highly commercial Hollywood cinema.
Okay, so what's happening there?
So 2002, he delivers this kind of dual brilliance. On one hand, he shares a Screen Actors Guild Award nomination as part of the amazing ensemble cast of Spike Jonze's adaptation.
Oh, adaptation, where he played Robert McKee, the screenwriting guru.
Exactly. Playing a
Huh.
real-life teacher, delivering those iconic lectures, which showed his intellectual engagement with the craft itself right there on screen.
And then the action blockbuster.
Precisely. The exact same year, 2002, he stars as the corrupt CIA official Ward Abbott in the first Bourne movie, The Bourne Identity.
Right, a role he came back to in The Bourne Supremacy a couple of years later.
So within this really short span, he's navigating the demanding world of morally dark indie film, LIE, intellectual metafiction adaptation, and the high-octane global espionage franchise world, Bourne.
So what does that transition actually demand of him as an actor? It feels like it's almost a different technical language between those projects.
Well, I think it demands the ability to switch the application of his core training. Does that make sense?
Yeah, explain.
Okay, so in LIE, that stage discipline is used for internalizing, conveying quiet menace, moral decay, all that heavy stuff.
Okay.
In Bourne, that same stage discipline, the command of space, the clarity of diction, the economy of movement, it's applied differently. It's used to make Ward Abbott, who's mostly just sitting behind a desk, right?
Yeah.
To make him feel like the most powerful, most dangerous man in the room. His presence grounds all the spectacle. It lends credibility to the whole action plot.
And the blockbuster money, presumably.
Well, one suspects, yeah. That probably allowed him the freedom to keep pursuing the more esoteric, challenging stage work and those smaller films. It's a smart balance.
His presence definitely became synonymous with that kind of commanding, often villainous power in those mid-2000s franchises. He was the main villain, William Straker, in X2, X-Men United in 2003.
Yep. And he played that alternate sort of villainous version of King Agamemnon in Wolfgang Petersen's big epic Troy in 2004.
Even in those huge CGI-heavy epics, you can still kind of sense the textual rigor, can't you? That Shakespearean training informing the choices he's making.
Definitely. And the roles he took weren't just like generic villains. They were figures of immense authority, often struggling with destiny or control. Think about his work in that 2005 BBC film Blue Orange, exploring race and mental illness,
Right.
or playing the patriarch in Woody Allen's Match Point. He constantly maintains this duality, doesn't he? High-minded, socially relevant art right alongside necessary, high-profile commercial work.
And just before he landed the role that would redefine his later career.
Logan Roy?
Yeah, before Logan, he took on another massive historical figure, Winston Churchill, in that 2017 film Churchill.
Critically acclaimed historical war drama, yeah. A huge role to take on. But by then, commanding figures, kings, generals, tyrants, patriarchs, they were absolutely squarely in his repertoire. The foundation was well and truly laid for what was coming next. And that, of course, brings us right to it. The ultimate, maybe, realization of the classical patriarch on the modern screen, Logan Roy.
Yeah. From 2018 to 2023, Brian Cox starred as the billionaire founder, the patriarch of Waystar Royco on HBO's Succession.
And this role, it brought him truly global mainstream recognition, probably unlike anything else in his whole career up to that point.
The performance was just lauded, wasn't it? Precisely because of that immense gravitas he brought to a character who was often, physically quite immobile, sitting at the head of a table maybe, yet just radiating this toxic power.
Yeah.
He won the Golden Globe for Best Actor in a Drama Series in 2019.
He got 3 Primetime Emmy nominations for the role over the show's run.
Logan Roy feels like the ultimate synthesis, doesn't he, of all those decades of work.
I think that's exactly right. He used that stage discipline, the stuff honed, playing King Lear and Titus Andronicus, the control, the vocal precision, the ability to just dominate a scene with minimal movement.
Yeah.
And he applied all of that to the world of corporate America. He treated the boardroom, the family estate, like his modern kingdom, beset by treacherous, scheming courtiers who just happened to be his own children.
And that famous use of certain profanity.
The F-bomb, yeah.
It wasn't just swearing, was it? It felt like the roar of this wounded, frustrated king who's losing control of his own succession plan.
Absolutely. But what's really remarkable, I think, is how he managed to keep up this versatile, working pace even while he was dominating one of the biggest prestige dramas on television. He didn't just become Logan Roy and stop everything else.
No, he kept that character actor engine running, almost like he needed these, artistic palate cleansers or something.
He certainly seemed to. Back in 2018, when Succession was just kicking off, he reprised his role as Captain John O'Hagan in the comedy sequel Super Troopers 2.
Super Troopers 2, that's hilarious.
And he openly joked about it.
Yeah.
Said his condition for coming back to that, pretty farcical comedy was that he had to get a big action scene with rockets and explosions.
That willingness, though, to just jump back into these lighthearted fan-favorite roles, it says a lot, doesn't it, about his lack of professional sort of pretense, despite the classical background, the intellectual weight.
Yeah, he seems genuinely comfortable moving between high tragedy and outright slapstick.
And his more recent film projects, they continue to show that diversity, too. Still committed to independent, thoughtful cinema.
Yeah, he starred in that 2022 political thriller, The Independent. But look closer at his work in another 2022 film, the American drama Mending the Line. He was also an executive producer on that one.
Oh, right. What was that about?
He played a Vietnam veteran who teaches a young, injured soldier how to fly fish, basically as a way to cope with his physical and emotional trauma.
Wow. That role, mentoring someone through trauma like that, requires immense tenderness, doesn't it? Patience, gravitas. Worlds away from Logan Roy shouting at his kids or playing corporate chess.
Totally. It's a quiet, supportive performance, relies on that subtle humanity he can access when he needs to.
And even more compellingly, maybe, his commitment to the stage just hasn't stopped. Despite his age, despite a massive success and global fame from Succession, he went back to the theater in 2023.
He did. Played the lead role, Johann Sebastian Bach, in a play called The Score. First at the Theatre Royal in Bath, and then it transferred to the Theatre Royal Haymarket in London this year, 2025.
Playing Bach, another intensely demanding, intellectual, historical figure. It just shows, doesn't it? The stage isn't just a memory for him, it's still his primary artistic anchor.
And that commitment loops right back to his origins. In 2025, he's set to perform in a new James Graham play, Make It Happen, in Edinburgh.
Playing who?
Adam Smith.
Wow.
The father of modern economics.
Wow.
And this marks his first return to performing on a Scottish stage in a decade. It just confirms, again, that for Cox, theater remains this continuous, vital part of his working life, and a way for him to keep engaging with big intellectual and historical ideas.
Okay, so if the immense body of stage and screen work wasn't already enough to secure his legacy, we have to talk about his third career almost, which is the audio landscape, using that iconic authoritative voice.
Oh yeah, that voice is instantly recognizable, isn't it?
Yeah.
And he's leveraged it incredibly well across films, video games, audiobooks, you name it.
It's that voice honed on the RSC stage, articulating Shakespeare's verse.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it found this whole new, probably quite lucrative kingdom in the audio world. He's had huge success voicing the ruthless Emperor Scholar Vizari in the Killzone video game trilogy.
Right, starting back in 2004.
Yeah, and he was the main antagonist, Lionel Starkweather, in that infamous, controversial game Manhunt in 2003.
He brings that genuine, serious, almost Shakespearean villain energy to those digital characters, doesn't he? Gives them a complexity that maybe goes beyond typical video game baddies.
It's a perfect marriage, really. Classical tone, modern commercial use.
And his voice work in film and TV is just as vast. He was the Ood Elder in that Doctor Who Christmas special, The End of Time.
Provided the deep, resonating voice of Death Capital D in the Good Omens adaptation in 2019.
Narrated Terry Pratchett's The Color of Magic. And looking ahead, he's voicing Helm Hammerhand in the animated Lord of the Rings film, The War of the Rohirrim, later this year.
And beyond the character voice roles, he's a significant audiobook narrator, too. He did the unabridged Dracula, Bram Stoker's novel, way back in '97, capturing all that gothic dread.
Narrated Tolkien's epic poem, The Legend of Sigurd and Gudrun, in 2010.
And of course, he provided that rich, reflective narration for his own autobiography, Putting the Rabbit in the Hat, just a few years ago in 2021.
Now, we do need to address something the source material highlights here regarding his audio work. It mentions he narrated a documentary called The Revelation of the Pyramids in 2010.
Yes. And the source notes that this particular documentary has been criticized for supporting anti-Semitic and negationist conspiracy theories.
Right. So that's an uncomfortable element in his otherwise pretty stellar body of work that we just have to acknowledge. It shows that even really prolific, respected artists can sometimes lend their talents, perhaps unwittingly, to projects with problematic foundations.
It's important to note, yeah. Okay, moving on from the voice work, let's get into his personal commitments. His political life, his philosophical views, they seem almost as complex and robust as his theatrical history.
He's described himself as a democratic socialist and also a Scottish Republican. But his actual political journey, it shows more intellectual independence maybe than just rigid party loyalty.
Yeah, his political path has been really fascinating precisely because of those deep convictions. He was an active, committed labor supporter for nearly 50 years, since 1967 right up until 2015.
To 50 years, that's lifelong commitment for most people. What changed?
Well, he became deeply disillusioned, apparently, by Tony Blair's decision on the Iraq War. He saw it as a profound betrayal of traditional labor, traditional socialist principles. It caused a major ideological break for him.
And that disillusionment, it led him to shift his allegiance pretty dramatically, didn't it?
It did. In 2015, he joined the Scottish National Party, the SNP, started supporting Scottish independence, although he actually couldn't vote in the 2014 referendum because he was living in the U.S. at the time.
Right. But still, that pivot from lifetime labor supporter to joining the Nationalist Party, that's a huge political statement.
It is. But the nuance, as you said, it doesn't stop there. By 2022, he'd shifted his public position again, stated he didn't really consider himself a Scottish nationalist anymore.
Oh, really? So what was his position then?
He said he preferred to move towards federalism. He described his ideal as something like independent states, but we come together as a united federation.
So it shows a commitment more to constitutional ideas, maybe, political reform, rather than just simple party membership or narrow national identity, like a preference for broad union combined with self-determination.
That seems fair, yeah. And he's also been a dedicated activist on specific international issues, particularly the Israel-Palestine crisis.
Right. He signed multiple letters calling for a ceasefire during the crisis, both in 2021 and 2023.
Yeah, and notably, he recorded that poem, If I Must Die, by the Palestinian writer Rafat al-Hariri, who was tragically killed during the war later on.
His activism seems ongoing, too. More recently, in 2025, the source says he signed an open pledge not to work with Israeli film institutions that he views as being implicated in genocide and apartheid.
So it shows he really uses his platform for outspoken activism and extending way beyond just UK domestic politics.
And then there are his public views on other things, recreational drugs.
Ah, yes. He openly supported the recreational use of cannabis. Famously stated, quote, "It's absolutely great and I recommend it to everyone. Get stoned."
Which is, well, it's a typically provocative Brian Cox statement, isn't it? But it had real immediate professional consequences.
It did. That statement, made back in 2020, led directly to his removal from the patronage of the Midland Daycare Center in Dundee. It's a center for the elderly.
Wow. So it demonstrates that conflict, doesn't it,
Mhm.
between his sort of free-thinking, rebellious nature and the expectations that come with celebrity patronage, especially perhaps in his more conservative hometown.
Exactly. Okay, finally, we should definitely touch on his deep academic and charitable commitments, because they prove his investment in the future of the arts is really tangible.
Right. He held the elected position of rector of the University of Dundee for 6 years, 2010 to 2016. Got
Yeah.
re-elected in 2013.
And the role of rector in Scotland, it's more than just like a ceremonial thing. It involves actively representing the student body's interests to the university's governing body. It's a serious commitment to higher education governance.
And he's also a patron of the Scottish Youth Theatre.
Yeah, where the theater in Glasgow was actually named the Brian Cox Studio Theatre in his honor.
Nice. And a patron of the British American Drama Academy as well, BADA.
Since 2020, yeah. And he holds regular master classes there too, so he doesn't just, lend his name or donate money. He actively teaches. He guides the next generation, making sure that classical tradition he mastered himself actually continues. Hashtag tag outro.
Okay, so let's try and synthesize this whole remarkable decades-long journey. We kind of kicked off with that Logan Roy image, didn't we? But the reality is just so much richer.
So much richer.
We've gone from a working-class kid in Dundee to a self-proclaimed democratic socialist and political independent. A two-time Olivier Award winner.
The original Hannibal Lecter on film.
Right. A hugely versatile character actor who grounds these massive Hollywood franchises, and also this deep contributor to academia, to the world of audio arts. It feels like every single screen performance, doesn't matter if it's a CIA official or a satirical billionaire. It's absolutely informed by that relentless dedication to the classical stage and textual rigor.
And we connected to the bigger picture, those 3 books he's written. Salem in Moscow, The Lear Diaries, his autobiography, Putting the Rabbit in the Hat.
Yeah.
They really demonstrate that his professional commitment isn't just to the performance itself. It's also to documenting, reflecting on the process of acting, the emotional pressure, the intellectual journey involved. He treats his entire career like this ongoing, documented artistic exploration.
It's a truly staggering legacy, isn't it, of intellectual and artistic commitment, which kind of brings us back full circle, back to the role that really defined his late career. Logan Roy.
Yeah.
So considering his early portrayal of that calculating Hannibal Lecter and his decades mastering the complex psychology of classical stage roles like King Lear, what deep classical foundation do you think he drew upon to bring that ruthless yet somehow vulnerable complexity of Logan Roy to life?
Well, it raises an important question, I think, for you, the listener, to consider. Is Logan Roy perhaps the ultimate modern Shakespearean king?
Say more.
Well, think about it. A man of absolute tyrannical power, constantly surrounded by schemers, by flawed successors, fighting bitterly for his own legacy, ultimately tormented by the weight of his own succession, his own mortality maybe. His entire career, rooted so deeply in classical tragedy, suggests that Cox treated that Waystar Royco boardroom not just as a commercial set,
But as
but as the crumbling kingdom of a tragic, powerful, deeply flawed modern monarch. And that, I think, is the genius of Brian Cox.